Hey everyone, this is Sean from the visualforester team, and in this, example number 3, I'm preparing a demonstration for a couple who, throughout the years, have saved up their money and are interested in retiring on a 100 plus acre piece of forest land, with their home on the edge of the property. They've never owned forest land before, and they unfortunately are unable to visit the location before they make their decision, so they've asked me to go through understanding their potential resources on the property, as well as any management options they have. I've been able to make some stand tables of their land and prepare them for this example video. We're going to create a scene involving 4 different conditions present on the parcel. I'll go to new here. Specifically, their first concern is protecting their property and home in the case of a fire, and the second focus of the property is to preserve the general aesthetic and wildlife. They don't expect the property to completely pay for itself, but they do want to get some kind of income out of it and would really like to avoid any unnecessary expenses. So to get started here in Stand Designer, I'm going to start with, Ribbon Creek here. We're going to have the season be fall, and the tree form I'm going to set moderately short because the elevation of their parcel is it's quite high. So I'm going to shorten the trees just a little bit. And yeah. Alright, so now we're in an empty work menu and with a blank terrain. Let's set up their terrain by placing each stand table on all of the pre-made polygons pertaining to each corners of the map. I'm going to place the first stratum, select the stand table here, stratum number 1 on the northwest corner. I'll skip the loading part. The first time you load trees into Stand Designer, it takes a little bit of time, but the second time you load in those same trees, it gets considerably faster. So I'll just skip ahead here and place down all 4 of these for you, and I'll get back to you. I forgot to mention, we'll be placing the first stratum in the northwest corner, the second stratum in the northeast corner, the third stratum, I believe, in the southwest corner, and the fourth stratum in the southeast corner. All right, that's all of them down, and so now I should have stratum 1, 2, 3, and 4 accordingly. All right, so we've got them all down. I'm going to place the last stand table here. Here we go, border, dense, even aged, onto the border structure. See, the border structure is like its own unique structure in Stand Designer. It's added to provide that little bit more to your scenes. Its trees are never counted in the stand inventory panel, and we can't use the polygon tool to place them since it's outside of the 4 acres. I find it quite nice, though, to have that boundary around our scenes, especially if we want to encompass our 4 acres in a different species or a size of tree, to illustrate what the rest of the surrounding landscape looks like compared to our forest, to help better illustrate that. So the border is definitely decoration, if you will. Yeah. So I'll place those down. I'll get up out of the understory here. And for the border of their property, they generally have some pretty nice, even-aged conifers all the way around. So yeah, gonna quick zoom out here and give you a kind of overview of their land. Here's a good view of the property looking mostly north, and if I check the orthographic view here, we can see it's pretty diverse, pretty different. You can see the map here, with especially one side, 1/4 of it being very infested with hardwoods. That's stratum number 1 there. Okay, so now that we've placed down some trees and we've placed down the border structure, we've got all the stand tables out of the way, I'm going to start manually editing this property. So I'm going to talk to you guys now about object editing. In Stand Designer, we can go up to most objects using for walk around having the toolbar out, we can go up to most objects and we can shift left click to bring up the Edit Object panel, which we can then, or we could also get from the toolbar by clicking here, or by hitting F on our keyboard. In Object Edit, there are a ton of things that we can do. If I toggle the Relocate button, I can then click anywhere on the terrain, and it will spawn the tree or object in that location. By toggling off Relocate, we then solidify its position, and we can edit it just a little bit further using our gizmo here. The three buttons at the top here are for the transformation edits. We have Move, Rotate, and Scale. If I move the tree, you can see I can move the tree up, down. I can also use these planes here to move it on that specific plane in 3D space. I can move it up, way up into the air, like that. Now it's up into the air. By using the Rotate tool, I can rotate our objects in any direction and on a direction that is of our perspective using the very outside ring. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, and then using Move, I'm going to send it right back into the ground. Goodbye. You don't have to do this, by the way, either. You can also hit Delete if you don't want to see that tree again, for instance, instead of moving everything into the ground, which for a very large tree takes quite a long time. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to delete that, and then it's all the way gone. Yep. Another tip for object editing is when you click on a tree and you delete it, you have deleted it for good. The stand inventory panel will account for that change, but there is no way as of right now to undo that. We will have this undo button working soon, but when you delete things in object edit mode, it's an individual change that's not accounted for by the trash can tool. Normally, we would use the delete tool, the trash can here, to delete objects en masse, like a lot of objects at once. And deleting individual objects, unfortunately, there is no undo for that right now, but we are probably going to have something for that coming very soon. All right, so we have all four stratums in, and we have the border structure in as well. We've got all the trees on the terrain, and now I'm just going to kind of beautify the understory of the terrain, and we're going to go place some vegetation on it. In this example, I'm going to be using the multiple object placement to achieve this. Here we go. Out in stand tables, you can see multiple object placement, as well as single object placement that I'll get to in a second. They're very similar. Multiple object placement allows you to place all of our species. You can select from the entire library of all of the models that we have, organized by groups. So this would be debris, rocks, dead snags. Think of this as forest debris, animals, human objects, ground cover, and of course, all the trees. I'm going to go with ground cover here, and we have different types that we can choose from. I'm going to throw in some grass down on the terrain, and you could use the automated grass to populate. I'm going to specifically select some grass here because I want some dry grass as well. There we go. And I'm going to actually bump that number up to like 300. Here we go. You can see here on the panels, or on these sliders, we have trees per acre, and you can select anywhere from 500 to 1 trees per acre for that specific item, and scale variance. You can click on it to update it. So scale variance is that as the trees are being placed down, they can have a scale of anywhere from 1 to 1.3 times their size, and below 1 as well. We also have preview object here, which will give us a nice presentation of exactly what we're going to place. This is extremely helpful when you're placing down rocks, or you just want to know what it looks like before you put it all over your terrain. Yes, we have some dead ryegrass here, and we've also got some green ryegrass. Here's the green, and there's the dry. We have, you may have noticed that we have 4 here. So we have a couple different types in height, width, different blades. If some have the little, I don't want to say barley, but little seeds on the top there. And I'm also going to get a mix of green down here as well. All right, so we have 300 each, placing about 8 down. We'll get about 2,400 on the terrain at one time. We can also, here, affect the height of it. We have a height mod here that allows you to adjust where the origin on the z-axis the object is. So you can set where you want some bush, shrub, or tree to come out of the ground specifically. We also have 3 different scales that you could choose here in every single direction before it is placed. So I could make much taller grass, adjusting the Y scale, or much shorter lawn grass. Another thing is that if you didn't want to select these, or the list is way too long, or you just want to start an entirely new list, we can first save this list for another time. I'm going to save this as all grasses, and our lists are saved under where everything else is saved underneath forests. Both our examples, our VL files, our camera paths, and our lists are saved in this folder. So I'm going to go all grasses, Visual Forester save, and then I can clear this list, and I can either start a new list, or once I'm done with that new list that I brought in, I can load this back in. And there you go. You may notice that when we load in the list, we see a bunch of lock icons. These you can toggle on and off, even if you place in some new ryegrass. You can toggle these on and off just so that you don't accidentally change the values when you hover over it, and so on and so forth. The lists show up as a commented out section here so that you can easily identify them as part of a list, and the other plants that you add on top of it are much larger to signify that they are just for easier organization and clarity. So I'm going to bring all of these in again here. There we go. And now we can get out of the object preview window by clicking X. Load the position. And it naturally gives us a grid pattern. It goes to about 4%, so I'm going to set that to more random. I found the best way to get the best coverage over the whole entire terrain is to have one pass going completely random, and then one pass going completely on a grid. And now you have some pretty nice grass coverage. It's looking pretty good. All right, so let's get some plants on here now. And I believe they have some Devil's Club on their terrain as well. I'm going to get rid of all of these and put down some Devil's Club. Oh, it's not going to be 300 each though. I'm going to probably just do 10. Since I'm a small number, since I'm not 100% confident that there's Devil's Club there. I'll just have them as a sort of decoration. Here's some either generic understory, or if it is there, then yeah, we can specifically have some Devil's Club. But yeah, there we go. All right, so we got all the plants down and general understory down with multiple object placement. Now we're going to do single object placement, and we're going to place the owner's home first using single object placement. Opening up the half work menu. Oops, nope. Actually, opening up the polygon panel, I can start going around, kind of making that reserved spot. There we go. That seems like a good area. And now opening up the half work menu, I can click all and clear objects on the inside. Actually, just the trees. Let me see if I can... I think the ground will take care of all the grasses as well. Yep, no problem. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got some land to build on. All right, I'm going to go into single object placement. Here we go. And I'm going to select buildings. And a lot of national forest type objects can be found in here, like a fire lookout, small work shed, or a restroom. I'm going to build a cabin with a nice cellar underneath. Place that right there. You'll notice here that if we enable physics, the enable physics button, toggling that on, will spawn any object that you create. It will spawn into the sky, and then it will fall onto the ground, allowing you to naturally place any object like rocks, woody debris, snags. It was made for those kind of things so that you don't have to place it immediately on the ground and readjust it. Hopefully, you can just let it fall and do the work for you. I'm going to explain it with the cabin and cellar. I'm going to enable physics, and I'm going to place it down there. And you'll see that it tumbles to the ground until it eventually stops. And that's where you would keep your, if it was a rock, that's where you can, that's where that rock would stay. Okay. We're going to, I'm going to go into, I'm not sure if that's inside or outside yet, so I'm going to go into edit object, and I'm going to delete that cabin with cellar. I'm going to place it again, but this time I'm going to toggle that back off. Oh, nope. Excuse me. Delete that. Toggle that off. There we go. And here we are. I can rotate it around, set it up to be just perfect. Rotate it around just right so that their cellar and steps are kind of on. I still want their house to be level, but if I were to raise this cabin up to be completely above ground, you'll notice that there is actually an inside to this cabin as well. You can walk in and there's a stove and yeah, it's quite nice. I don't need to look inside of it, and I'm just going to be showing them, you know, generally. I believe they have a more modern house, but this will suffice for now. This is more of just a placeholder for this is where your house is kind of thing. All right, so now we have a pretty sweet house on the terrain. We can place down different things as well, like recreation for them. I'm going to try and fill in that area and place down recreational items. Like, I'm going to get a bench here, for instance. Going to move that around. Oops, edit object, there we go. Give them a nice bench. And probably also a campfire. Let's see. In single object placement, it's not limited to just one object specifically. You notice that I can place down as many stakes as I want to, holding control and left clicking. So I could place down 23 fires if I really wanted to and have them all light up. And I'm still running at 60 frames. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay, so after deleting 23 fire pits, here we go. I'm going to raise this one up out of the ground, and I'm going to take this one and rotate this to match the slope of the terrain a little bit. Going to get that fire a little bit away from there. Just a tad. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. I've got a bench right next to a fireplace there. Awesome. So we've got the general basics of setting a cabin, placing down a few objects here in single object placement. I am now going to place down some animals. It was noted that they had spotted some mule deer in the area, so I'm going to get like a family of deer going here. I'm going to turn off the trees for just a second. You'll notice that when I turn off the base layer, the border structure still remains. And I can toggle that on and off by clicking the border structure down here as well. That's where that is if you need to toggle on and off the border structure. So let's see here. Half work menu, I'm going to place down a family of deer real quick. Some deer fawn eating. Really young. There we go. A bunch of them kind of eating. A doe, she'll do all of the animations in sequence. We have several different animations for the animals that you can place down, and they're all each different animals that you can select. So we've got one that'll be idle, one that'll eat, and one that'll cycle between being idle and eating. Gonna get, I'm just gonna have one that's just standing there. There we go. I can also have edit object panel over top of the half work panel, and if I deselect that, I have all the functionality back. So I don't have to constantly go back and forth, hitting tab and bringing this back in and out. Can I get another couple deer fawn here? To really big family. Huge family. All right. Perfect. And I'm going to get the tree layer in here now. All right. And that worked out pretty good. All right. We've made the scene, got some ground cover on the ground, and we've placed down their house and some deer in the area. I'm going to bring this to them and show them all of this. I also am going to open up work menu. And I'm going to show them some custom information using the polygon panel. The whole entire stand itself has probably only 23% hardwood. Versus in Polygon 3, there's quite a lot. And in the northwest corner, that's most of it. So this way I can use the polygon system to show them a blend between the two, or a mix of the two stratums if I need to. There might be some areas on their property where they don't have the same logging rights, particularly if it's close to a riparian area or a stream, than in other places. So on this map, I'm going to illustrate that by drawing a line here, and before I click finish, I'm going to click create buffer. And that will allow us to create a radius around the stream that they effectively can't log or thin. I'm going to set that to 60 feet. 60 feet from this stream. Create buffer. There we go. And if I click finish, then it automatically created a buffer around the stream. I'm going to toggle that G layer off here and the border layer so that you can see it a little bit easier. Here we go. This is to help them in case their state or municipality has some restrictions on whether they can thin or log various areas that are close to a known stream or waterway. That looks pretty good. So now we've done a lot to prepare the scene, added some ground cover, animals, houses, some polygons, made some custom riparian area guides. Now I'm going to go over what I might be presenting to them with this stand, and I think one issue with this stand that you can see here in Stand Designer that you might not be able to see on a stand table is the hardwood infestation going on here, specifically in this stratum number 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plop to the ground here, and I'm going to look for a relatively, perhaps, I'm going to look for an adolescent hardwood. I'm going to say this one. There we go. I'm going to select that one. That one looks pretty young. I'm going to select everything over as far as the species and diameter, and I'm going to move those over to S2. There we go. Now when I toggle S2, I can show them we have effectively cleared out the hardwoods, except for a couple few smaller hardwoods that we will want to keep, because we still want to have these hardwoods around for diversity, but we don't want to have them infest the entire stand. So we're going to chop down the bigger ones. That way it'll give a little bit more sun to this area, and we'll let the conifers grow over them. So after that change, now it looks much more consistent. You have a lot more native conifers to the area. No more infested hardwood situation. Unfortunately, we lose those nice fall colors. So I could also prescribe just a medium thinning and taking out only the largest, only the very largest hardwoods to them as well. So they could have 1 or 2 options to utilize. All right, I think that's about it. We covered a lot in this video. I'm going to get some more stand tables to help simulate 20 years of growth into the future after some potential thinnings to the rest of the area. We covered a lot, but I think I'm finally ready to give them a presentation on what the future of their land looks like. Thank you so much, guys, for following along with me as I prepare this scene. Now you can follow up with this by recreating your special piece of land as closely as possible, utilizing the single object placement and object editing tool in Stand Designer. I'm Sean, and I'll see you guys next time.